Wait, go.
Excellent. Welcome back, everybody, for our fourth and final session of our mid-career boot camp. And so today is going to be just a whole lot of practice, practice, practice. So what I want to start out with is to let us know, what do you want to get out of today? Do you want to do a resume review, mock interview, or do you want to stay in kind of the main session and either participate in or watch some mini coaching? So if you can put that in the chat. So Jody and I are going to be multitasking like crazy here. So we really want your preference up front. And you can change your mind later, but she's going to be making the breakout rooms as I am going to be explaining what we're going to be doing today. So let's get started. So like I said, we are basically at the end, and so we'll do a bulk. So about 45 to 50 minutes. I think we'll put in a little bit of padding so that you can, kind of get situated. We're going to put the instructions in the chat. So when you go into your breakout rooms, everyone will know what you're to be doing. And then we're going to come back and like always, answer any questions, but also talk a little bit about how you can build on the momentum that you've created here. So for the resume reviews, first of all, I do want to say, so one of our boot campers did ask for me to do a resume critique in the Facebook group, and so I did that this morning. So so it's about 30 minutes. So if you wanted a really in-depth understanding of doing resume reviews, obviously you don't have time to watch that at the moment, but afterwards, if you want to just get an understanding of what that looks like, Jody, if you wouldn't mind, I put a link to that YouTube video. This is only,
Sure.
Put that in the chat. So this is only for our group's eyes only. So please don't share it outside of this group. But I think hopefully it'll be really helpful to just give you some ideas about how to tailor your resume for a job. So when we're breaking out into the small groups, I want you to share each other's email in those groups and just email each other your resumes that you want a review. And if there's we just tried to make this really simple, because not everyone has the ability to upload a file into their into Zoom. So I think this is just the most straightforward way to share your resumes. And then for the person who is, for the people who are reviewing the resumes, so share your resumes, decide who's going to go first. And this is all going to be done in groups of 3 so that we get so that you're able to get a lot of feedback. Same with the mock interviews. And so I want the people who are looking at the resume to just spend 6 to 10 seconds scanning it, because that is the average amount that a hiring manager is going to take to see if they want to continue reading. So with that 6 to 10 seconds, can you tell what kind of job they want? Can you tell if they're qualified? So that's what you're looking for, the initial scan. Then I want you to spend about 2 minutes actually reading the resume. And so I want you to check to see, is the content in the resume relevant for the kind of work that they want to do? Do they talk about their accomplishments or impact or intended impact? So is it just tasks and responsibilities, or are they talking about how they made things better? And then put the little hiring manager hat on and just ask yourself, can I imagine this person succeeding at the job that they want, the job that they're applying for? Ideally, there would be a job description that you would look at as well, but then that's just going to add some additional time. So just, do the best you can. And I also want you to just pay attention. Are there any concerns? Are there any questions? Anything that makes you scratch your head and like, I don't know why you're talking about this when what you really want to do is that, or I can't tell if you're qualified. So just think through if there are any questions or concerns. So then the feedback component. So for the two people who are reading, and some of these groups might just be groups of two. So the 1 to 2 people who are reading the resume, give some feedback on, start with the concerns. What do you think might keep them from getting an interview just based on your very quick scan? And then also talk about the main strengths. What are they doing really well? And so the person who's receiving the feedback, what this is for is to learn how to strengthen it. So obviously take their concerns as helpful and supportive feedback, but also listen to what do you do well with your resume. So you want to build on your strengths. You don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And also to get an idea of what are the things that you can do going forward to really take your resume to the next level. And if there's some time, you guys might want to collaborate on what are some things that you could do differently. So for example, if that person has put their relevant experience as an intern or as a volunteer gig rather than as a part of, and so that's lower down on the resume, then you can, suggest just include all of your professional experience, including volunteer and internships, because those are professional experiences, as an example. Okay, so basically, what you are checking to see is if a resume pops pretty quickly, if you can very easily tell what kind of job this person wants. Okay. So as I mentioned, each person is going to get about 15 minutes. So a little bit of time to scan and read and note your concerns and note the strengths. And then the rest of the time giving feedback and ideas for improvement. Okay. So, so if you've got any questions about the resume review process, please put them in the chat box. And before we break you out into breakout rooms, I'll make sure that I answer any of your questions at that point. So, because what I want to go into next is how are we going to structure the mock interviews? And so for the person, so again, go into your breakout rooms, there should be 2 or 3, decide who's going to go first. And so the person who is going to be the interviewee, I want you to share what are the interview questions that you're most concerned about. What do you get stumped on? What keeps you up at night? And so put that in the chat so that they've got a reference for that particular interview question. And then briefly explain what kind of job you're interested in. If you've got a job description, please give them a link to that in the chat, and so they can take a look at that. But if it's just kind of a generic thing, just the job title and an overview of the tasks and responsibilities that you'd have. So the person who is conducting the mock interview, there are a few questions that I recommend that you always ask. Why are you interested in this job? What is your greatest strength, greatest weakness, salary expectations? I want everyone to practice that. And just as a reminder, when you're answering what are your salary expectations, you want to deflect, I will, as I understand this job more, I'll have a better answer for you. You want to assure, based on all my research, I don't think that salary is going to be an issue, and then pivot. So I'd like to hear a little bit about your plans for the next 5 years. So that is a recommended way of answering the salary expectations, to not give too much leverage or information to them while still letting them know that you are interested and that you're flexible. Then the interviewer to ask one or two of the problematic questions. What are they the most concerned about? And then, and because there's always going to be one or two questions that no one can prepare for, ask something. Now, I don't recommend like one of those brain teaser ones, like if you were an animal, what would it be? If you want to go in that direction, you can, but it can just be another type of question that you ask. And for the people who are interviewing, who are the interviewees, the people who are the interviewees, I want you to, hopefully you have thought about those 5 or 6 accomplishments that are relevant. And I want as much as possible to use those accomplishments to answer these questions, especially in that SOAR format: the situation, obstacles, actions, and results. When we're talking about giving feedback, I want, for the interviewer and the observer to talk about the content of their responses. Were they strong? Did they really hone in their strengths? Did they, were they able to give some idea about past accomplishments? And to give them, what could they have answered better? And what were they really good at? And then also some feedback on how was it to interview them over Zoom, because this is the environment that we are living in these days. And so, so were you able to see them? Were they looking at the camera, or were they looking at, some random other point on the computer? Did they have a warm expression on their face? Did they look comfortable? So, because unfortunately, this is what an interviewer these days gets, and you want to make a good impression. Obviously, we're not going to go into like how people are dressed, because I didn't request that people put on business casual or anything like that. It really is their kind of the lighting and their comfort, their warmth on their face, their facial expressions, and if they were looking at the camera or not. Okay, so so basically that is what these groups are, what we're going to do in the breakout rooms. And so what we're going to do, so Jody, I don't know if you've put the instructions in the chat yet.
I have not yet, but I will do that right now.
Okay, how are things going on your end?
Good. I have the groups actually formed, and it's pretty, there's not a lot of groups. A lot of people are actually choosing to stay in the main group and watch kind of the mini coaching. I think people are really getting a lot of value from that. So that's great. Others are wanting to stay there and then or start there and then maybe go to another one. So it looks like we'll have 3 different groups of 3 people each in the resume reviews one, and your peers will be they'll be looking at your resumes, and you'll be just emailing your resume if you want your resume reviewed to the other person or 2 people max in your session, so that they can see it and give you input from their perspective based on what they've learned and things like that. And you'll take turns, with that. And then the mock interview one, you'll have the actual mock interviews. And there's only 1 group right now for a mock interview. There's 3 people. So the interviewer, the interviewee, and then somebody to kind of, observe and give feedback. but then there are 2 people who were interested in starting in the minis, but they might want to go to the mock interview. So that's great. I'm just dropping this in here for you really quickly. Sorry. Here's I'm just doing the mock interview and everything right here. All right, there you go. Here we go.
So,
and it should go in there momentarily. Hopefully it'll appear here.
Great. And so, so for the people, so we'll just make a couple of extra rooms. So the people who want to do a little mini coaching and then do the mock interview or resume review. And I really do want to encourage people to do the mock interview, because it really, being able to practice saying these things out loud, we just don't do that enough. And so I really encourage you to take advantage of that, even if, you know, you're not feeling quite clear about what you want to do. At the same time, I understand that you might not feel ready for that, and that's totally fine too. Okie dokie.
And Rhonda, if I can just add one thing too. So there is only one, as I said, one group so far for the mock interview, and I can certainly create an extra one that, you know, just doesn't have anyone in it yet. And an extra one also for the resume review in case people want to, you know, partner up and just go, you know, do the resume review after a little while in the main room. They should have access to just choosing their own, but in case, you know, I'll be there to facilitate that for the most part. Given we had very few in the mock interview one, I thought about, and this is totally, this is totally just optional, but I thought maybe I would take a few minutes from doing kind of the, you know, the overseeing, you know, the time limits and things like that, and maybe go into the mock interview room and maybe do a very minor, you know, very small mock interview, you know, a couple questions and just, you know, give a little feedback as an example of how they might do it. So, but I'm very flexible.
Okay, great. And so, so I think that, so we're all going to be very flexible here. The main problem is once Jody makes the breakout rooms, she can't add any more, and without closing everything down and starting from scratch. And so we just want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity. So it might be a little bit that if you want to move into another room afterwards, that that there's just not a whole lot of time for you to go through that resume review, or there might not be, you might have to join a group that already has 3 people in it. And I don't want to dissuade you from doing that, but just understanding the limitations of our platform.
Yeah, so I'm just adding a couple extra, like I added 2 extra resume review ones right now. That is like they're 4 and 5, whatever there. And there's just, you'll see that there's nobody in there. I think they might be able to see how many are in.
Okay.
Maybe not, but I've added, it's the backup resume review, and then another backup resume review, and then one that's backup for mock interview. Okay.
And so, and then Jody's going to be sending out broadcast messages like every 15 minutes, just to give you a time check on when things are going to, when you want to switch from one person to another. So what we'll do is we'll give everyone a few minutes to kind of settle in and to email resumes and all that kind of stuff. And so make sure that you see the instructions in your chat so that you can refer to that. And any questions that you have, please direct message Jody. And so she will certainly, as depending on how difficult the logistics are, she might be popping into some of your rooms, like she said, and just giving some feedback as well. Okay, so let's open up those rooms.
All righty. Here we go. And then if you are in a room and you want to come back, you can usually just, you know, leave on your own and come back to the plenary session. So, you know, yeah, assuming there's at least 2 people, that you're not going to leave somebody alone in there, that would be great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, don't sneak out if it's just one other person, they will notice.
Does everyone see your invite, those who are going to different rooms? And there may have been a few who maybe didn't yet put their request in. So if not, okay, Brian, you might be one of those. I'll assign you, that's fine, to a resume group. And okay, great. So I'm going to put Jen and Brian together in a resume group. Okay.
Great.
Take care of
Okay.
that. And we'll see if there's anyone else. And if there is, if you were wanting to go into a group, but you hadn't yet been assigned, just email me and let me know.
So, so if you're not getting a pop-up that says to join a room, then you might need to click on those three little dots at the bottom of the Zoom screen that says more, and that's often where you'll find it.
Rachel, I'll get you into your mock interview one right now. Hold on one second.
Jody, I don't see that either.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because you're showing as assigned. You're not in the unassigned people. But hold on, let me just go up to if there's a way to. All right, let's see here. Okay. Okay, I'll get you in. So you guys are Rachel. The two Rachels are together in the mock along with Hillary, and I'm going to reassign you. There you go. There you go. And Hillary, where's Hillary? Let's see. There you go, Hillary. All righty. You all should be in, you three. That's great. Anyone else not seen? Rotary Peace Fellows, who is, okay. Which one had you wanted? Let's see here. Guillermo, okay. Guillermo, I didn't have you yet when I did the breakout. Sorry. Let me just see which room had you wanted. Let me know. Just put it in the. Oh, that's really weird, Janet. Janet, I think sorry. Anyone who is staying in the big group, the main group, will not get one. You're going to be under a group that's called unassigned because you're staying in the main whatever. And so that's the main group. You won't see one. But is there anyone who chose other than the main group? That they're the ones. Janet, I have you in the main group because you said either the main group or eventually interviewing. So I was having you stay in the main group first, if that sounds okay. Tell me if you want it otherwise, and let me just see. Great. Main group for you. So great. Guillermo, you're already where you need to be. You're right here. And in a few minutes, Rhonda will be starting in this group, and I will close my mouth.
And Jessica,
let's see, mock interview. Jessica, okay, you were an additional after I'd gotten that built. That's fine. Let me just make sure. Is there somebody else that's interested in mock interviewing?
Yeah,
Janet?
Eva wants to do.
Janet had wanted interviewing, or I'm sorry, what was that?
Eva?
Okay, great. So mock interview, we'll put Eva, and the other was Jessica. Yes, let me put Eva and Jessica together. Great. Into my backup mock. Okay. Let me look at you in there, Eva. And
Okay.
okay, you're gonna go back up mock interview. There we
So
go.
for everybody else, take a little stretch. And as Jody's fixing on that,
there you go.
please.
Anyone else, just email me or text me in the chat box. Put it in. Okay, interview, great.
Okay.
Okay, but want to change to other group if possible. So I'm sorry. So you want to change, Janet, you're saying eventually to the mock interview group. And if that's the case, just shoot me a little chat box saying I'm ready to go to because Rhonda will be doing mini coaching and talking on this channel. So just shoot me a little chat box thing whenever you want to go. Same with anyone else. If you want to go join another group and participate in that at any time, let us know. We can make it happen.
We can make it happen. Exactly. All right.
So anyone else? Last call.
All right. So all of those who have want to stay for our little mini session, so please put in so I know that you've already put in the chat that you want to stay, but who wants to get coached? Who was about to break into who wants to be a millionaire, but that's just promising much more than I can deliver. But yeah, who would like to volunteer for a little mini coaching session? Don't be shy. Otherwise, this is going to be a very, very boring session if it's just me staring at the camera.
Well, I can tell you, Rhonda, there were many people in the chat earlier that said, I would love a mini coaching dialogue with Rhonda. I would love that. So I think there's folks here. They just maybe need a moment to step up, and someone raised their hand, and maybe that's Janet.
All right. So, so Janet, please unmute and put yourself on video if you feel comfortable. And I think the hand raising seems to work well. So,
okay, I'm unmuted. I'm trying to, good morning or good afternoon for you.
Hello.
Hi.
Good afternoon.
I'm trying to get my Zoom going.
Okay.
And hopefully my dog will be quiet in the background. Give me a
no, barking dogs, as long as it doesn't take over the entire session, are welcome because they make me feel warm and fuzzy on the inside. So Janet, tell me a little bit about your situation.
Well, I'll try to be succinct. So my situation, you know, I had actually reached out to you, I think, gosh, last summer. Resume. In the interim, my mom's passed away, and I've been dealing with a lot of stuff going on with legal. One of my brothers.
Oh, sure.
So I first want to thank you for all you've done. I've kind of let everything drop, and then I was going to reinstate, and then as of April 1st, I'm full back looking now, realizing I need some income. So I am torn. I originally, when I started this, I was in 20 directions. I feel like I'm a light shining in all these directions and don't know which path to go down. So I've narrowed it down to basically maybe 4 fields. And
okay, so what are those 4 fields?
Well, I guess I should say directions rather than fields.
Okay.
So one is after Peace Corps, international development, working towards global. These are huge, very broad, but something with meaning in terms of peace, specifically women and gender equality. I worked a lot with women in science. I used to be a scientist, and I did a lot in my country for that, as well as under that realm in environmental science preservation and youth development.
Yep.
So that's one. I really feel I could do passion work with either one of those. The other one would be going back into the sciences, but in a different field. I was an immunologist and looking at oceans, either hands-on field biology. I like to be at sea. I've got a lot of experience in that. Or looking again at in the sciences of coastal preservation, environmental preservation.
Okay.
Again, I'd like to do it in an international realm if possible.
Okay.
And then the other one would be, I've got them in a moment. Those are the main branches, and within those, I've got it in 10 subgroups.
Okay. Okay. So so let me ask you, what do you think you want to do on a day-to-day basis? Because, for the field biology, whether that's oceans or whether that is, kind of like more, on the land environmental restoration, I've got some ideas that would be pretty hands-on and taking samples, or, like there's, doing sciencey things. And then for the peace and justice and the women's empowerment or gender equality, there's a lot of different things that you can do in that arena. So that could be doing training, that could be writing reports, that could be individual coaching, that could be advocacy and lobbying. And so what is important for your, especially with everything that you've been through, I want you to walk into a job that not only has meaning for you, but for the day-to-day work, you enjoy that as well. So tell me from your past experience, what have been the times and the moments where you were just in the flow, where you just, felt satisfied, even if it was challenging or frustrating, but at the end of the day, you felt good about what you were doing. What were some of the things that you did?
Gosh. So I think working with women, I have 3 girls. I was a single mom, and one suffered greatly from that experience. And so when somebody's disabled, I coached. I used to be a head swim coach and took some kids to the Olympics back in the day. And when I was working with the ones that weren't motivated, I felt so empowered to take what I've gone through in life, to motivate them to go ahead and be able to go, like, say, in Special Olympics, to the Greek Olympics, and to always encourage them. And that made me feel really just on fire. And the same thing in Namibia was not just doing the tasks. I know you're all with Peace Corps. Forgive me if my primary job there wasn't what motivated me the most.
Oh, well, yeah. I think that's pretty common. Yeah.
It was taking some of the women to go into science. I got some of them with some scholarships and able to think outside of their own world. And the women who, for example, they said, oh, the boys always do that, we can't do that. They assigned me to 200 girls in a classroom that held maybe 27 desks one day, because they said the women aren't allowed on the track field. And so, a way to, when I overcome those barriers, I guess when somebody tells me I can't do something or they can't do something, it makes me realize, okay, we're going to do everything in our power to do it.
Yeah.
Find a way.
Well, and the other thing that I was wondering as you were talking is that I can see that those two worlds can come together, and you have done that. That by introducing women to science, or people with disabilities to overcome some of their internal doubts, that like there are ways that where science and field work can directly touch on gender equality. Same with peace, to be honest. I mean, there's been movements like Wanjira, I can't remember her last name, Maathai, in Kenya, where she started planting trees all over Kenya. And part of that was also peacemaking. It was, so I think that for people like you, I encourage you to see if you can't go from the either this pathway or that pathway, but to see where can these overlap to do the types of things that I want to do. And so I see you as both, just from what you described and what gets you fired up, part of that work is, that one-on-one or small groups working with people. And, but also, doing things outside of a desk, right? Yeah. And so that's one of the things that I could see, finding organizations that use one thing to accomplish another, use science to empower women. And there's actually a lot of organizations like that out there. And so part of it would be to go to Idealist. That's my go-to place for social mission oriented organizations. and you can do searches for, where do you live right now?
I'm in Lake Bluff, Illinois,
Okay.
Midwest.
Yeah. How close is that to Chicago? Just out of curiosity.
33 miles.
Okay.
I
So,
can sail there. I sail down there.
oh, lovely. So you could do some search for what's going on in the greater Chicago area, but also internationally. What are some of the grassroots or larger organizations? And just start talking to people at those organizations.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just had a thought. I've been, so you mentioned Kenya. When my time in Africa, previously I had gone to Kenya. A friend of mine had worked with Knowles there. I did a couple Knowles clip trips.
Mhm.
My daughter and I are mountain climbers. And
Mhm.
we went out there and I worked in an orphanage there. And then that's what spurred me to do Peace Corps. And actually, I had wanted to do Peace Corps. Obviously, I'm an older volunteer. I had wanted to do it right out of college and then got delayed a few decades.
Yep, and then life happened.
But and I'm cognizant of the time. I know there's a lot of other people that want to get to have this wonderful time with you. But there was an organization I found that actually was a women's group who are new temporary what's her name for Peace Corps, the head of Peace Corps now. She had worked 25 years and worked with a women's group, and I happened upon it yesterday. And there's a Rotary Fellowship that the other option I wanted to ask very quickly is to achieve that goal. I'm going to look at Idealist, but also whether or not to go back to graduate school. And I looked at the possibility of getting a certification with this group through the Rotary Fellowship, and it looked like it just had my name on it. So I was wondering if you think, in addition to looking at immediate jobs, if I should venture also into, if that would be helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that what I'm going to encourage you to do is do more exploration of how you can combine your passions, right? And it sounds like you've got the experience to do what you want to do already.
Okay.
And so it might be a way of like just writing up your experience in your resume and LinkedIn profile to set you up for the work that you want to do. As you're talking to people, though, you might learn some other things where certification is a great shortcut to, kind of help you stand up above the rest. It can also be a great way of networking with, the people who are doing the certifications. You can talk to them about what are some organizations that want to do that, want people like you. And but I also recommend starting direct by just approaching those people that you would love to work for and seeing if there's a place for you. And if there's not, to understand why. Is it funding? Then would you be open to me helping you to fundraise for a position that I could step into? That's an approach you might want to take with some of the smaller organizations. And if it is credentials or experience, to understand what is it that they're looking for. Master degrees are sometimes necessary and sometimes not. And what I recommend going back to school is, if you're very clear about what you want to do and there's no other way, that's when a master's or a PhD makes sense. But if it is just, maybe it'll help me figure out what I want to do, that's what masters are not set up for that, right? They're set up to give you certain kinds of education to do something specific. And so, and it's an investment in your time and money. And so you want to make sure that it's really wise.
Okay.
And so spend a little bit more time getting an understanding of where you can bring in science, women's empowerment, throw in peace in there as well. and the organizations that want people like you, and then just kind of learn what is it going to take for them to hire you.
Okay.
Yeah. So do you feel like you've got some good next steps? That's really what we're going for in these.
Yes, I think so. I'm gonna curtail the rest because I could spend the whole time. I just thank you so much. I will also, I'm in the active, was going to like these 1-year condensed master's programs that are due May 15th. Of course, this is where all the deadlines are right now. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. And so I think that if you're applying to these master's programs, one other thing that I want to suggest is to talk to graduates, to look at graduates, go onto LinkedIn and go to their alumni page and just see what they're doing to make sure that they're doing stuff that would be interesting to you. And those would be really good people to reach out to. I'm thinking about joining the program. I'd like to understand what you got out of it. Here's what I'm thinking about doing. Will the program help me do that kind of stuff? So if you decide, you might as well apply. Just because you apply and get accepted doesn't mean you have to do it.
Right.
But again, even if it's condensed, it still costs some money, right? Yeah. And it still is a chunk of your time. And if there's a way to get what you want to do without a master's degree, that's what you want to try first.
Okay. Thank you.
So Janet, it's so good to talk to you.
Good to talk with you too. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, my pleasure. And
rough road for all of us being evacuated.
Yeah, I know. My heart just goes out to you guys. It's such a tough position to be in. But here we are. We're getting through it. We're learning, growing, adapting, all that good stuff.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
So good luck with everything. And we'll continue to find ways to help support you and everybody else who's going through similar challenges.
Thank you.
Okay. So who would like to go next?
Rhonda, we had several that volunteered in the beginning after you initially put it out and you had kind of silence. And then there were several that had said, I'll try, I'll do it. They were all, it was Janet went, Patrick, Carrie, and Matt had all said, and Ann Bozick had all volunteered. So I don't know if any of them are.
Start with the first person that you mentioned, Patrick.
Yep.
So if you want to unmute yourself and put yourself on camera, then we'll do some mini coaching. So hi. So it looks like you're still muted, Patrick. Okay.
Yeah. So basically, I am trying to figure out the next step for me. I got married back in August.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I come from a background in the international humanitarian sector. I've been with a few different organizations. I was in Peace Corps during 2010 and 11. And then since then, I've been with a group called All Hands Volunteers, Doctors Without Borders. There's been a few along the way. So before I was married, I was very much on the track towards full-time, international humanitarian emergency response, specifically working on a deployment basis in places, that are active conflict zones, things like that. That's still something that I love. I love all parts of that. It's kind of an addiction, varying degrees of how that's healthy or not. It's something that I have spent a large amount of time investing, trying to get into. But that's not necessarily what I want my life to be now. And what I'm finding is the kind of ideal position for me in many ways would be an operational type position based out of Geneva. We're trying to find a way to move to Switzerland in general. So Geneva base or somewhere in Switzerland. It's like all roads honestly kind of point towards Geneva anyway, but not necessarily, but a lot of the time. but a lot of the operational positions that I've been finding require like a decade more experience in the field. And so I don't really know how to connect the dots. And I'm trying to figure out how to live, a life of semi-balance and
Right.
also still do the things that I've worked on the last decade.
Yeah. So tell me what has been your process of finding these kinds of jobs?
Yeah, so I think for me, there's been a lot of focus on trying to identify the people that I've known over the last number of years who've done something similar, and check out their LinkedIn pages, see how they got there. The other thing is just scouring the positions available and looking what are the things that the dream position would apply or take. And that's where I keep getting stuck, is because it always seems to come back to another 5 to 10 years based in complex emergency situations.
Yeah. So I think that that's going to be true for the big organizations and
Mhm.
the ones that are highly competitive. The good thing is that there are smaller organizations that that still need operations managers and
Right.
that don't necessarily need that much field experience.
Mhm.
And so that, because there's part of it where I understand that perspective, right? But
Yeah.
to be honest, operations doesn't require as much, of the specialized skill set that being on the ground, because then you're dealing with so many other things, especially if you're in conflict zones and all that kind of stuff. Like, to be able to do operations, it's useful to have the perspective, like you know that when people are in crisis, they need things sooner rather than later. I mean, you've got that empathetic understanding, that lived experience. And so I think that part of it is going to be identifying some of these smaller organizations,
Mhm. Mhm.
then and networking your way into them. And so the fact that you've got some really nice names there, the fact that you've done Doctors Without Borders, I mean, that's known all over the world. And so so I think that there's going to be some organizations that are really looking for someone like you. And I think that doing some of and the other thing too is that often our network can overcome gaps in experience.
Mhm.
And so have you done searches on LinkedIn where you put in like operations manager and then RPCD, or Peace Corps as a past organization?
Minimally. I haven't
Okay.
done much of it. I've done a couple of hours, I'd say, of that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's just my issue with that was trying to focus on which organizations. There's so much variety within that kind of niche, even.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
that's where I got stuck. It's okay, well, yeah, I'm seeing names, I'm seeing things connect, but then what? And that's yeah.
Does it matter? So yeah, you're talking about a lot of different niches. How important is that to you?
This is something I keep going back and forth on. There's definitely, and this I guess applies in a couple different ways. One, I love humanitarian response as a whole, like that culture of not just a,
Okay.
but the go and figure it out.
Yeah.
I love that. Where I get stuck is, so looking at the time I was with MSF,
Mhm.
there was it was difficult being so focused sometimes in a specific sector, like looking at global health and then trying to bend humanitarian response to fit exclusively what that meant.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm not medical, right? And
Yeah.
so that was a challenge, but something that I had this mixed bag of emotions with, because part of it stretched me to be someone that was better in that. And the other part was, well, I just don't fit. So there's a push-pull.
Yeah.
And that's where,
Well, so what's really important is understanding the aspects that resonate with you the most. And so again, it's not just, humanitarian response groups. It is those that are on the ground, always going, tackling those big immediate crises, and so you can be in a field that is, you can be in the medical and health sector, even though that's not your thing. So then it really is a more matter of the culture of the organization and how they do humanitarian assistance. And so what I am going to recommend is that you go back and so starting with the RPCV network, like that's just a good solid foundation. And especially, humanitarian organizations in general, there's a lot of us in those. And so really what you're looking for is kind of those broader organizations. And if you happen to find one that might not be the perfect industry fit for you, but needs an operations manager and they're excited about what you've done, then that is going to be your next stepping stone, right? And because if you establish yourself as a phenomenal operations manager, then then your reputation's going to build your next job. And but I do want to check that out if because you understand what operations management does, and how is that a fit with your personality?
it depends on what's going on. In the sense that I do better when everything is crazy, and I struggle more when the pace comes back.
Yeah.
And so that's been my own thing. That said, thinking about this, the other piece that I know that I really enjoy about these roles are things when it turns to the larger perspective. It's not about implementation of something specific, and it goes to the larger strategy or the kind of macro pieces behind what a response program looks like. But that seems like even more a step removed.
Well, but that's okay. So that can be something that you are building toward. And and the reason why I ask about, is it a fit for you, personality wise, is that a lot of operations really is just kind of nuts and bolts and ordering supplies and making sure that tickets and Excel spreadsheets and you tracking blah blah blah, which is really different from being on the ground and making things happen with duct tape and staples, and so basically it sounds like you get bored pretty easily. And when you're talking about, humanitarian work being addictive, you're not the first person that's expressed that, because man, is that an adrenaline rush, and you got a lot of dopamine in there, and dopamine is that reward center of your brain. And so sometimes, yeah, that's not healthy, and it might take a toll on you physically at some point. But at the same time, what's important to you. And so again, there are plenty of crazy organizations out there, that are just like doing, just bootstrapping everything. And so I don't think that's going to be a problem for you to find a fit like that. And then, as you gain some more experience, then you can start volunteering for some of this more strategic planning and, you know, kind of looking at the micro level, and, you know, kind of, and what I really recommend that you do is in your next job, you pay attention to the stuff that makes you the happiest. You just, you know, and you ask yourself, why am I enjoying this? And then those are the opportunities you start seeking going forward. And so, you know, that's how I discovered I enjoyed strategic planning, is I just, you know, sat on a couple meetings and I'm just like, I got an idea and I've got another idea. And why are you going in this direction? Why are we doing this? And I'm like, oh, I like thinking about these kinds of things. And so again, as far as next steps are concerned, do you feel like you've got a path forward to kind of think about?
I think so. In terms of the networking and kind of mapping that out and finding a way with a smaller organization to step towards something bigger, that definitely makes sense. And then from there, I mean, I obviously have some ideas of what's made me happy from jobs in the past. I can map those out and go.
Yeah.
I don't understand still is what. So the next step, that part makes sense, but then it feels like a bit of a dead end sometimes, where it's, I can see the next job, but seeing the job in the kind of career path, that's where I'm struggling. What comes after?
Yeah. So there's a couple of different ways of addressing those kinds of questions. And one would be to kind of start with a blank slate and just ask yourself, 15 years from now, what do I want to be doing?
Right.
And so you've got you know, your life has changed. You know, you used to be single, now you're not. Don't know anything about, you know, family plans, but, you know, that's something to imagine. And because that does change the kind of work that you want to do. But and these are also discussions that you're going to want to have with your partner. You can't make unilateral decisions when you're married, but this can be really good dialogues. Where do we want to be 15 years from now? For you to think about, what do you want to be doing? You know, that international component. So you're talking about Geneva. That's really different from, you know, Africa or Latin America. And so knowing where you want to live, knowing the kind of work you want to be doing, the kind of life that you want to be living. And although that might be difficult, do you think that'll be difficult for you?
We're definitely already having those types of conversations, so it's just continuing on more specific.
Yeah, great. Yeah, so that's what I'm gonna say, is just like, you know, get kind of more specific and ideal. Don't let practicality enter into the picture at this point.
Okay.
Just what do we really want our lives to look like in 15 years? If 15 is too far out, make it 10. That's totally fine too. And then there's an activity in my career design studio under my art critic that's called Waving a Magic Wand. And that activity is basically, okay, you've got your idea of what you want to be doing. Now imagine if everything from here on out just goes perfectly for you. You know, just everything falls into place. You find a great job doing this. What are the steps that would take you there?
Got it.
And so you might have to do some research for that. You know, so you know, for some of these things, it might be going back to school. It might be getting a certain kind of fellowship. It might be getting experience in something. And you can also continue doing what you've been doing, and that's looking at LinkedIn profiles for people who are doing those jobs. How did they get there? And then that gives you some possible career paths. I love LinkedIn for that. I think it's just so fabulous to see. You can see what organizations they worked at, what job titles they had, and then you think, which of these is interesting to me? What do I want to do next? And so yeah, so you've got a couple of steps going forward here, and yeah, I wish you all the best. And I see Jody kind of
just a time check. I wanted to tell you it is 3:02, and just let me know at what point would you like me to bring folks back? Did you want 10 or 15 minutes at the end? What was your hope?
Yeah, I think that let's do another 15 minutes.
Great.
And so that'll give us a 15 minutes at the end. And
Yep.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah. And yeah, so who do we have next?
There were, you mean from the list that we had?
Yes.
Or folks just stepping up there? Yeah. From the list, let me get my little part here. We had Matt had to drop off, unfortunately. Excuse me. So it was Janet, Patrick, Carrie Johnson.
Okay.
And then and then Anne is the last person who had said yes. So
okay, great.
Great.
So, Carrie, if you want to unmute yourself and take yourself off of video, or put yourself on video.
Hi, Rhonda. Did you say my name?
Yes, Carrie.
Oh, hey,
Yes.
Carrie.
Hi.
Well, let's see. I thought I hit the video just a second. Let's see. Yeah.
There we go. Okay. There we go. Now I see your entire head. That's all. Yeah.
Hi,
So,
Rhonda.
Carrie, nice to meet you. Tell me what's going on.
Yeah. So I'm in the, like many people, I'm in the process of applying for work. And I think it's really just, and I know you've talked about self-care, but this whole process, of course, is exhausting and demoralizing, even if you're confident and enthusiastic.
I know.
Because what will happen is I throw myself into every job opportunity because I just find that that's the best way for me to approach the opportunity. I have to believe in it. You know, I have to, I just, because I've been on the other side where I get applicants, and it's just boring to get an application that feels it's just routine, and they've been sending it out to a million places and they don't even really understand the job. So it's like, that's the first one to, like, you know, overlook because they're uninspired.